The great chamber was silent. 847 species had gathered in the crystal halls of the Galactic Council. Light from the nearby neutron star poured through the walls, painting everything in shades of blue and white. This was the most important vote in 10,000 years. Captain Minho Park stood at the back of the human section. He wore his formal uniform, dark blue with silver stars on the shoulders. His face showed nothing. Beside him, Ambassador Jeon Kim sat with her hands folded in her lap. She was watching the alien counselors with calm eyes. High Chancellor Vorath floated at the center of the chamber. He was an ancient being made of pure energy, and his voice echoed in every mind present. "The vote is complete," he announced. 731 species vote in favor. 116 vote against. Humanity is hereby exiled from the galactic community. Cheering erupted from dozens of sections. Insectoid creatures clicked their jaws in celebration. Aquatic beings in floating tanks flashed bright colors. Tall, thin beings with too many eyes embraced each other. Counselor Threx, a creature covered in hard black shell with 6 arms, stood on his platform and raised all his limbs in victory. He had led the campaign against humanity for 20 years. "Finally," he shouted. "The danger is removed. The galaxy is safe." Minho watched all of this without moving. He had expected this result. Every human in the chamber had expected it. For 300 years, humanity had been part of the galactic community. They had shared their technology, their medicine, their ideas. They had helped build space stations, cure diseases, and create peace treaties. But they had also made the other species nervous. Humans were too curious. They asked questions that made others uncomfortable. They took risks that seemed insane. They grew too fast, learned too quickly, and never seemed satisfied with what they had. While other species reached a comfortable level and stopped, humans kept pushing forward. The galaxy had decided that humanity was too dangerous to keep around. Ambassador Jeon stood up slowly. The chamber gradually became quiet. Everyone wanted to hear humanity's response. Would they threaten war? Would they beg for mercy? Would they protest the unfair treatment? Jeon smiled. It was a small, mysterious smile that made several counselors feel suddenly cold. "Thank you for your time," she said. Her voice was calm and pleasant. "We understand your decision. We respect it." She paused and looked around the chamber at all the species who had voted against humanity. Her smile never faded. "Good luck, everyone." That was all. 5 words that meant nothing and everything. She turned and walked toward the exit. Minho followed her, along with every other human in the chamber. They moved without hurry, without anger, without fear. Their footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. Counselor Threx felt his victory celebration die in his throat. This was wrong. Humans were emotional creatures. They should be angry. They should be fighting. Why were they so calm? Why was that woman smiling? "Wait," Threx called out. "You have nothing to say? No objection? No demand for reconsideration?" Minho stopped at the door and looked back. "What would be the point?" He asked simply. "You have made your choice. We accept it." But your trade agreements," Threx stammered. "Your research partnerships? Your citizens living on other worlds. You would abandon all of this without protest?" Minho's expression remained neutral. "We are not abandoning anything. We are being exiled. There is a difference." He nodded politely. "Goodbye, Counselor." The humans left. The celebration resumed, but it felt hollow now. Many counselors looked at each other with uncertain expressions. High Chancellor Vorath flickered with colors that suggested deep thought. Trademaster Vorness, an aquatic being with tentacles and large golden eyes, swam to the edge of his tank. "Something is wrong," he said quietly to his aide. "They accepted too easily." "Perhaps they are simply mature about it," his aide suggested. "No," Vorness watched the door where the humans had disappeared. "I have dealt with humans for 60 years. They do not surrender. They do not accept defeat. When they seem calm, that is when they are most dangerous. Across the galaxy, the news spread quickly. Humanity had been exiled. Parties erupted on 1,000 worlds. Species that had envied human success, feared human power, or simply disliked human attitudes all celebrated together, but on human ships, in human stations and human colonies scattered across 2,000 light years. The reaction was very different. Admiral Taeyong Choi received the news on his flagship. He was a tall man with gray hair and steady hands. He had commanded human forces in 3 different wars, always fighting to protect the galactic community. Now that community had thrown his people away. He opened a channel to all human military vessels. "This is Admiral Choi. You have heard the news. Exile has begun. All ships will return to Earth space immediately. Do not engage with any alien vessels. Do not respond to any requests for assistance. We are no longer part of their galaxy." In a research station orbiting a gas giant, Dr. Soman Lee began the process of erasing human databases. Decades of medical research, cures for diseases that affected 17 different species, gone in minutes. "They voted us out," she said to her team. "They do not get to keep our work." On a trade station at the edge of civilized space, human merchants closed their shops, packed their goods, and booked passage home. They had been the most reliable traders in the sector, known for fair prices and honest dealing. Now the aliens who had bought from them for years watched them leave with growing worry, and at the FTL gates, the massive structures that allowed ships to travel between stars in seconds, human engineers began shutting down their stations. They had built these gates. They had maintained them. Without them, travel times would increase from seconds to weeks. Ambassador Jian returned to her ship and immediately contacted President Yunji Kang on Earth. The president was a woman, in her 60s with white hair and eyes that had seen much. "It is done," Jian reported. "They voted as we predicted." Yunji nodded slowly. "And their reaction to your departure?" "Confusion. Some fear. They expected us to fight." "Of course they did. They still do not understand us." Yunji looked out her window at the blue sky of Earth. "How long until they realize their mistake?" Jian considered the question. 2 weeks for the first problems. 2 months for panic. 6 months for desperation. Then we wait." Yunji turned back to the screen. "Bring our people home, Jian. All of them. It is time to stop pretending." Far away, at the Galactic Council, Counselor Threx received a report from his aide. He read it and felt his legs weaken. "Counselor? What is wrong?" Threx looked up with fear in his compound eyes. 40%, he whispered. 40% of all critical infrastructure in the galaxy has human components. Human engineers, human technology, human expertise. His aide did not understand. "So, we will replace them? With what?" Threx asked. "With whom?" "We exiled the only species who knew how to maintain it all." The celebration was over. The real consequences were about to begin, 2 weeks after the exile vote. The galaxy began to fall apart. It started with small things. A translation error here. A trade ship delayed there. A medical supply that did not arrive on time. Most species did not connect these problems to the human departure. They thought it was just bad luck. Trademaster Vornis knew better. He floated in his tank at the Central Commerce Hub, staring at screens full of red warning lights. Trade routes were collapsing. Ships were lost because the navigation systems were failing. Goods were rotting in warehouses because nobody could translate the shipping labels correctly. "How is this possible?" his assistant asked. "We have been trading for thousands of years. We did not need humans before." "We did not need them before because they were always there," Vornis explained. His tentacles moved in patterns of worry. "Humans did not just join our systems. They became our systems. They made everything work better, and we let them because it was easier." The Universal Translation Matrix was the first major failure. Humans had created it 200 years ago, a program that allowed all species to understand each other instantly. Now, without human programmers to maintain it, errors were appearing. Important negotiations failed because of mistranslations. Wars nearly started because one word was converted wrong. Then the FTL gates began to slow down. These massive rings of metal and energy allowed ships to jump across thousands of light years in seconds. Human engineers had maintained them for centuries. Now those engineers were gone, and nobody else knew how the technology worked. A journey that once took 3 seconds now took 3 hours. Then 3 days. Some gates stopped working entirely. Admiral Taeyong Choi watched all of this from the bridge of his ship, now orbiting Mars. He felt no satisfaction in the galaxy's suffering. He had spent his life protecting these species. But orders were orders. Admiral, his communications officer reported, we are receiving distress calls from 17 different sectors. They are requesting human assistance. Our response: standard message, sir. Humanity is no longer part of galactic affairs. We wish them well. Taeyong nodded. Continue home. In the outer colonies, Dr. Somin Lee finished erasing the last of her databases. Decades of research, thousands of cures, millions of lives that could have been saved, all gone. She felt sick doing it, but she understood why it was necessary. A message came from the local governor, a purple-skinned being with 3 heads. Dr. Lee, please. The Torvan plague is spreading. You developed the only cure. We need those files. Somin closed her eyes. She had spent 2 years creating that cure. She had worked without sleep, without rest, driven by the desire to help. The Torvan people had thrown flowers at her feet when she succeeded. The Torvan representative had voted for Exile. I am sorry, Somin replied. Humanity is no longer part of galactic affairs. I wish you well. She ended the transmission and boarded her shuttle. Behind her, the research station powered down, its computers empty, its labs dark. The worst problems came from security. Humans had been the peacekeepers of the galaxy. Human soldiers protected trade routes from pirates. Human guards kept order on space stations. Human ships responded to distress calls. Now there were no humans. And the galaxy remembered why it had needed them. Pirates came first. They appeared on trade routes that had been safe for 100 years. They attacked cargo ships, raided stations, and took hostages. Species that had never worried about defense suddenly found themselves under assault. Then the old wars restarted. The Vrax Empire had been quiet for decades, held back by the threat of human intervention. Now that threat was gone. Empress Zala, a massive creature with armored scales and claws that could cut through metal, gathered her fleets. The humans were the only thing stopping us, she told her generals. Now nothing stops us. She invaded the Outer Rim in the 3rd week after Exile. 12 systems fell in 10 days. The Galactic Council held emergency sessions. Counselor Threx, once celebrated as the hero who removed humanity, now faced angry accusations. You did this, shouted a delegate from a conquered world. You told us we would be safer without humans. Now my people are enslaved. Threx tried to defend himself. We could not have known. We thought humanity was the threat. Humanity was the only thing protecting us from the real threats. The delegate threw her papers at Threx. You fool. You absolute fool. High Chancellor Vorath called for order, but there was no order left. The galaxy was burning, and everyone knew why. A delegation was sent to Earth. 50 ships carried representatives from the most desperate species. They arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system and stopped. They could not go further. A barrier of energy surrounded the entire system, from far beyond Pluto to the edge of the sun. It shimmered like a soap bubble, but was stronger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships passed through it easily. Everyone else was stopped cold. This is impossible, the lead delegate said. This technology does not exist. Where did they get this? Nobody answered. Nobody knew. Commander Yenwu Nam appeared on their screens. He was a young man with short hair and a calm voice. Welcome to Earth space. Unfortunately, you cannot enter. Humanity is no longer part of galactic affairs. We wish you well, please. The delegate begged. We are dying. Our worlds are falling. We need your help. Hyung-woo's expression did not change. You voted to exile us? You told us we were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too human. We are simply respecting your decision. We were wrong. We admit it. We will do anything to bring you back. I appreciate that, Hyung-woo said. But the decision was made. You taught us that the galaxy does not want humanity. So humanity will stay home. He paused. Good luck, everyone. The transmission ended. The delegation waited at the barrier for 6 days, sending message after message, offering money, resources, technology, anything. Earth never responded. Finally, they returned to the Galactic Council with nothing. They will not help us, the lead delegate reported. They are not angry. They are not vengeful. They are simply done with us. Councillor Threx felt his world crumbling. Then what do we do? No one had an answer. Meanwhile, behind the barrier, humanity was busy. Ships moved through Earth's solar system carrying materials and personnel. Factories built new technology at incredible speed. Scientists worked on projects that the galaxy had said were impossible. President Yoonji Kang met with her advisors in a room with windows overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Report? She said simply. The barrier is holding, one advisor said. No alien ship can penetrate it. Our evacuation is 98% complete, another added. Almost all humans are home. And our advancement projects? The lead scientist smiled. Progressing faster than expected. Without the need to limit ourselves, we are making discoveries every day. New energy sources. New propulsion systems. New materials. Yoonji nodded slowly. Good, continue? Ma'am, the scientist said, at this rate, in 6 months we will be more advanced than the entire galaxy combined. I know. Yoonji looked out at the ocean. That was always the plan. She thought about all the years humanity had held back, dumbed down their technology, slowed their progress, all to avoid frightening the other species. It had never worked. They had always been feared. They had always been resented. Now humanity would stop pretending. The Vrax Empire is expanding, an advisor warned. They may eventually turn their attention to us. Let them, Yoonji said. By the time they reach us, they will learn why the galaxy was right to be afraid. Outside the window, a human ship rose into the sky, heading for the stars. Inside the barrier, humanity prepared for the next stage. The galaxy had wanted them gone. They would soon regret that wish. 6 months had passed since the exile vote. The galaxy was unrecognizable. Councillor Threx stood in the ruins of what had been the Galactic Council chamber. Half the crystal ceiling had collapsed during a raid. Power flickered on and off. Of the 847 species that had attended the historic vote, only 300 still sent representatives. The rest were too busy fighting wars, fleeing invasions, or dying from diseases that no one could cure. This is your fault, Threx whispered to himself. He said it every morning now. It was the only truth he had left. The Vrax Empire controlled a third of the galaxy. Empress Zala had conquered 60 systems in 6 months. Her armies moved from world to world, taking resources, enslaving populations, and destroying anyone who resisted. Without human peacekeepers, without human weapons, without human strategy, no one could stop her. Trade had collapsed by 70%. Most FTL gates no longer worked at all. Travel that once took seconds now took months. Some ships simply disappeared, lost in space with no navigation systems to guide them. Medical crises swept through dozens of worlds. The Torvan plague had killed 8 million. A genetic disease among the Melthri had wiped out 2 entire colonies. Human doctors had cured these illnesses years ago, but those cures were gone, erased when Dr. Somin Lee left her research station. Refugees fled in every direction, but there was nowhere safe to go. Species that had lived in peace for centuries now fought over scraps of territory. Old hatreds returned. Old wars resumed. And through it all, Earth remained silent behind its impossible barrier. A second delegation traveled to humanity's solar system. This one was larger than the first, carrying representatives from 50 species, including Councillor Threx himself. He had not wanted to go, but the council had demanded it. He was the one who had led the exile vote. He would be the one to beg for humanity's return. They arrived at Saturn's orbit and stopped. The barrier was still there, shimmering and beautiful and completely impenetrable. Threx had never felt so small. "Human vessel, this is Counselor Threx of the Galactic Council," he transmitted. "We request an audience with your leaders. We come in peace. We come with humility. We come to ask for your forgiveness." For a long moment, there was only silence, then a screen activated, showing Commander Hyunwoo Nam. He looked exactly as he had 6 months ago, calm and polite and completely unmoved by the suffering of the galaxy. "Counselor Threx," Hyunwoo said, "welcome to Earth space." "Commander, please. We are desperate. The Vrax are conquering everything. Our people are dying. We cannot survive without humanity's help." "I understand," Hyunwoo said. "That must be difficult." Threx felt anger rising in his chest, but he forced it down. "We were wrong to exile you. We admit it. We will give you anything you want. Name your price. We will pay it." Hyunwoo's expression did not change. "You misunderstand, Counselor. Humanity does not want payment. We do not want resources or technology or apologies. We simply want what you gave us, separation, but we are dying." "Yes, you are." Hyunwoo paused. "You voted to remove humanity because you feared what we might become. You were right to be afraid. But you made a mistake. You thought exiling us would make you safer. Instead, you removed the only thing keeping you safe." Threx's legs weakened. "What do you want us to do?" "Nothing." "There's nothing you can do?" "You made your choice. We made ours." Hyunwoo leaned forward slightly. "The galaxy told humanity that we were too dangerous to be part of your civilization. So we left. Now you face the galaxy without us. This is what you wanted. It is not what we wanted. We wanted safety. Then you should not have exiled the species that provided it?" The transmission ended. Threx stared at the blank screen. Around him, the other delegates began to argue and panic. Some wanted to attack the barrier. Some wanted to keep begging. Some simply cried. Threx did none of these things. He understood now. Humanity was not punishing them. Humanity was not seeking revenge. Humanity had simply stopped caring. The galaxy had rejected them, so they had walked away. They had moved on. And they were never coming back, behind the barrier. Earth had transformed. President Yoonji Kang walked through the streets of New Seoul, the capital city. Buildings rose into the clouds, supported by technology that defied gravity. Flying vehicles moved in perfect patterns overhead. The air was clean, the water was pure, and every citizen had everything they needed. 6 months ago, humanity had been part of a galaxy that feared and resented them. They had spent their resources helping others, protecting others, teaching others. They had held themselves back to avoid causing worry. Now they held nothing back. "Report," Yoonji said to her advisor as they walked. "Venus is fully terraformed. Colonization begins next month," Yoonji nodded. They had turned Venus from a hellish wasteland into a garden world in 5 months. Before Exile, such a project would have taken centuries, and the galaxy would have complained about humanity showing off. The new FTL drives? Functional? Ships can now travel between galaxies in hours, between galaxies. The old galactic community thought traveling between stars was impressive. Humanity had already moved beyond such limits. And the weapons? The advisor hesitated. "Ready, ma'am. We hope we will not need them." "So do I." Unji looked up at the sky, where stars were visible even in daylight. "But the Vrax will come eventually." "Empress Zala is not stupid. She knows that as long as Earth exists, her empire is not secure. Will they attack us?" "Yes, and when they do, we will show them, and the entire galaxy, why the exile vote was the worst mistake they ever made." If the universe had heard her, a message arrived the next day. It came from Empress Zala herself, broadcast to every receiver in Earth's solar system. "Humans," the Empress said. Her image showed a massive creature covered in gray scales, with yellow eyes that burned with hunger. I am Zala, Empress of the Vrax Dominion. I have conquered half the galaxy. Now I turn my attention to you. She paused, letting her words sink in. You have two choices. Join my empire willingly, and I will allow you to serve with some comfort. Or resist, and I will destroy your world. Scatter your species across the stars and erase the name humanity from history. Another pause. You have 1 week to decide. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. Admiral Taeyong Choi received the message on his flagship. He read it twice, then began to laugh. Admiral? His first officer asked, confused. She has no idea, Taeyong said. She truly has no idea what she is threatening. What are our orders? Taeyong considered for a moment. We do nothing. We wait. Let the Empress bring her fleet. Let her think she can intimidate us. He smiled, and there was something dangerous in his eyes. It has been 6 months since we stopped pretending to be weak. I think it is time for a demonstration. On Earth, President Yoonji received the same message. She showed it to Captain Minho Park, who had returned from the Galactic Council and now served as her military advisor. What do you think? She asked, Cho. Read the message calmly. The Vrax have 10,000 warships. They have conquered 60 systems. Empress Zala believes she is the most powerful being in the galaxy. And Minho looked up with that same quiet confidence he had shown at the Exile vote. She is about to learn that the galaxy is very small and humanity is very large. Yoonji nodded. Prepare the fleet. Not to attack, not to defend, just to demonstrate. Demonstrate what? Yoonji smiled the same mysterious smile that Ambassador Jian had worn 6 months ago. Everything, the Vrax were coming. And humanity was ready, not to fight, not to negotiate, just to show the galaxy what it had thrown away, the Vrax. Grand Armada crossed into human space on a Tuesday morning. 10,000 warships moved in perfect formation, each one bristling with weapons that had destroyed 60 civilizations. At the center flew the Empress's flagship, a vessel so large it had its own gravity. Empress Zala stood on her command bridge, watching Earth's solar system grow larger on her screens. Today we make history, she announced to her fleet. Today, the Vrax Empire becomes the undisputed ruler of the galaxy. The humans will kneel or they will burn. Her commanders cheered. Her soldiers sharpened their claws. Her gunners powered up weapons that could crack planets in half. The fleet passed Neptune, then Uranus, then Saturn. They approached the barrier that surrounded Earth's system, expecting resistance, expecting fear, expecting something. They got nothing. The barrier simply dissolved as they approached. One moment it was there, shimmering and impenetrable. The next moment it was gone as if it had never existed. Empress Zala frowned. A trap? No energy signatures detected, her sensor officer reported. No ships, no weapons, no defense systems at all. They surrender? No transmission received, Empress. They simply let us in. Zala did not like this. She had conquered 60 systems, and in every one, the defenders had tried something. Fighting, running, begging, tricking. No one had simply opened the door and stepped aside. Continue forward, she ordered. All ships maintain battle formation. If they will not defend themselves, we will take their world and be done with it. The fleet moved deeper into the solar system. Jupiter passed on their left, a massive ball of swirling gas. Mars appeared ahead, red and rocky. And beyond it, Earth itself, blue and white and green, hanging in space like a jewel. The birth world of humanity, Zala said. So small. So fragile. I expected more. Her flagship crossed the orbit of Mars. Reality tore apart. There was no warning. No alarm, no enemy ship appearing on sensors. One moment the Vrax Armada was flying in perfect formation. The next moment half of it was gone. 5,000 warships simply vanished. Zala spun toward her officers. What happened? Where are my ships? Unknown, Empress. They are not destroyed. They are not cloaked. They are simply not here. That is impossible. I know, Empress, but the remaining 5,000 ships began to die. Not explode, not break apart, die, their engines stopped. Their weapons went cold, their shields fell. Lights flickered and went out. 5,000 Vrax warships, each one capable of destroying a moon, became floating metal coffins in seconds. Zala watched in horror as her mighty armada became helpless. What is doing this? Who is doing this? A screen activated on her bridge. A human face appeared. Admiral Taiyang Choi, his expression calm, his voice steady. Empress Zala, he said. Welcome to Earth space. What have you done to my fleet? Zala roared. I have done nothing. I simply stopped holding back. Taiyang leaned forward slightly. You asked us to join your empire or be destroyed. We have a third option for you. Learn. Learn what? What humanity really is? On every Vrax ship, the screens activated to show what was happening. The 5,000 vanished warships were being held in a pocket dimension, a bubble of folded space that humans had created in 6 months. They were unharmed, simply imprisoned in a place that should not exist. The 5,000 disabled ships had been shut down by technology that rewrote matter at the quantum level. Humans had reached into their systems and simply turned them off, like blowing out candles. The Vrax had brought weapons that could crack planets. Humans had brought weapons that could reshape reality. You came here with 10,000 ships, Taiyang said. The most powerful fleet the galaxy has ever seen. And we stopped you without firing a single shot. Zala's claws dug into her throne. Release my ships. Face us in proper battle. Why would we do that? Taiyang asked. Battle is inefficient. We are not warriors, Empress. We are engineers. We do not destroy problems, we solve them. Then what do you want? Taiyang smiled. It was not a cruel smile, not a mocking smile. It was the smile of a teacher explaining something simple to a student who should already know it. We want you to go home, he said. We want you to return to your empire and tell everyone what you saw here. Tell them that humanity spent 300 years pretending to be limited. Tell them we held back our technology, our weapons, our capabilities, all to avoid frightening the galaxy. Tell them that the Exile vote freed us from that pretense. He paused. Tell them what happens when humanity stops being polite. Zala stared at him. In her entire life, no one had ever spoken to her this way. No one had ever looked at her massive armada and called it insignificant. No one had ever treated her like a child. You could destroy us, she said slowly, right now. You could wipe out my entire fleet and cripple my empire. Yes, why don't you? Taiyang considered the question. Because that would be easy, and humanity does not do easy. We do better. Every Vrax ship suddenly came back to life. Power returned. Weapons recharged. Shields rose. The 5,000 vanished ships reappeared exactly where they had been, as if nothing had happened. Zala looked around in confusion. You are letting us go? We are sending you home, Taiyang said. Not to be merciful, to make a point? You came here with the most powerful fleet in the galaxy and we brushed it aside like dust. We could have killed you all. We chose not to. Remember that, Empress. Remember what humanity can do, and remember what humanity chose to do instead? Before Zala could respond, every ship in her armada jumped. They did not use their own engines. They did not activate their own drives. They were simply moved, translated across space in an instant, deposited back at their starting points across the Vrax Empire. 10,000 ships relocated in the blink of an eye. Zala found herself orbiting her homeworld, her flagship surrounded by her scattered fleet. Her commanders were screaming for orders. Her sensors were going crazy. Her mind was reeling. Humanity had just demonstrated power beyond anything the galaxy had ever imagined. They had humiliated the most dangerous empire in existence without suffering a single casualty, without losing a single ship, without even trying hard, and they had let her go. Across the galaxy, the news spread instantly. Every species, every world, every station heard what had happened. The Vrax Grand Armada, destroyer of civilizations, had been swatted away like an insect. Councillor Threx received the report in the ruined council chamber. He read it 3 times, unable to believe it. They did this without weapons? He asked. Without visible weapons, his aide corrected. The humans have developed technology that ... We do not have words for what it does. They move ships across space without engines. They disable systems without touching them. They create dimensions that should not exist. Threx sat down heavily. We exiled them because we feared what they might become. Yes, Counselor, we were right to fear them. Yes, Counselor. And by exiling them, we freed them to become exactly what we feared. His aide said nothing. There was nothing to say. On Earth, President Yunji watched the Vrax fleet disappear. Captain Minho stood beside her, his face thoughtful. They will not attack again, Minho said. Zala is cruel, but she is not stupid. She knows now that she cannot defeat us. Good, Yunji said. That was the point. Not to destroy them. Not to conquer them. Just to show them. Just to demonstrate. And now? Yunji was silent for a moment. Now we wait. The galaxy has seen what we can do. Some will fear us more than ever. Some will try to use us against their enemies. Some will beg to be our friends, and what will we tell them? Yunji turned to face him. We will tell them the truth. Humanity is done being part of their galaxy. But we are not done with growth, with exploration, with progress. We are building something new. And anyone who wants to be part of it, anyone willing to stop being afraid and start being better, is welcome to join us. A new coalition, a new future. Far away. In her ruined throne room, Empress Zala stared at the stars. She had tasted defeat for the first time in her life. It was bitter, but it was also clarifying. Humanity was not an enemy to be conquered. Humanity was a force of nature to be avoided. She would rebuild her empire, but she would never threaten Earth again. And across the galaxy, species began to whisper a new question. What if they had been wrong about humanity all along? What if, instead of fearing them, they should have been learning from them? What if exile was not an ending, but a beginning? The question spread from world to world, and slowly, carefully, the galaxy began to reconsider everything it thought it knew. A message arrived from Earth, broadcast to every receiver in existence. Ambassador Jian's face appeared, smiling that mysterious smile. We will accept one delegation, she said. Come to discuss the future. Choose wisely who you send. The galaxy held its breath. The next chapter was about to begin. The delegation arrived. At Earth on a morning when the sun was bright, and the sky was clear, they had been chosen carefully. No species that had voted for exile was included. No empire builders, no conquerors, no politicians who had spoken against humanity. Only those who had defended humans, helped humans, or been hurt by the exile were invited. Counselor Vornis was among them. The aquatic trademaster had always respected humanity, and he had voted against exile. Now he floated in a special transport tank, his golden eyes wide as he saw Earth for the first time. Incredible, he murmured. The stories do not do it justice. Cities rose into the clouds, connected by bridges of light. Vehicles flew through the air in perfect patterns. Gardens covered every rooftop, every wall, every surface. The planet looked like it had been designed by artists and built by gods. This is what they did in 6 months, his aide said. Imagine what they will do in 6 years. The delegation was taken to a meeting hall in New Seoul. It was a simple room with wooden floors and large windows showing the mountains in the distance. President Yoon Kang waited there with Ambassador Jeon Kim, Captain Minho Park, Dr. Somin Lee, and Admiral Taeyong Choi. No guards. No weapons. No displays of power. Just humans, waiting to talk. Counselor Vornis studied President Unji carefully. She was a small woman with white hair and calm eyes. She did not look like someone who commanded technology that could reshape reality. She looked like a grandmother. That, Vornis thought, was probably the point. Welcome to Earth, Yunji said. Her voice was warm but serious. We have much to discuss. Thank you for receiving us, Vornis replied. We come with open minds and humble hearts. We know we do not deserve your help, but we ask for it anyway. Yunji nodded slowly. You want to know why we invited you here. You want to know what we plan to do. You want to know if humanity will save the galaxy from the chaos we left behind? Yes. The answer is no. Silence filled the room. The delegation looked at each other with worried expressions. We will not save the galaxy, Yunji continued. We will not fix your problems, win your wars, or cure your diseases. We spent 300 years doing that. It earned us fear, resentment, and exile. We will not make that mistake again. Vornis felt his hope dying. Then why bring us here? Yunji smiled. It was the same mysterious smile that Jian had worn at the Exile vote. Because we are not going to save you. We are going to invite you to save yourselves. She gestured to Ambassador Jian, who stepped forward. Humanity is building something new, Jian explained. Not an empire. Not a council. A coalition. A partnership of species who want to grow, to explore, to push beyond their limits. We will share our technology, our medicine, our knowledge. But only with those who are willing to use it. Use it how? Vornis asked. To become better. Not comfortable. Not safe, better. Ian's eyes were intense. The old Galactic Council was built on balance. Everyone stayed in their place. Everyone accepted their limits. Everyone was satisfied with good enough. Humanity never accepted that. We always wanted more. That is why you feared us. That is why you exiled us, she paused. We are inviting you to stop being satisfied. Stop accepting limits. Stop fearing progress. Join us, and we will help you become what you never imagined you could be. The delegation was quiet, thinking about her words. Dr. Soman stepped forward. I was a medical researcher, she said. When we were exiled, I erased all my work. Cures for diseases affecting a dozen species gone. I did that because the galaxy rejected us and I was angry. She held up a small device. This is a cure for the genetic plague affecting the Talar species. We developed it in 2 months. A gasp came from one of the delegates, a tall, thin being with silver skin. The Talar had been dying for decades. Their entire species faced extinction. 2 months? The Talar delegate whispered. We have been trying for 100 years. You were trying alone, Soman said. We tried together, without limits, without fear. That is the difference. She offered the device to the delegate. Take it. Save your people. This is our gift to you. The Talar delegate took the device with trembling hands. Tears ran down her silver face. There will be more gifts, Soman continued. More cures. More solutions. More miracles. But only for those who join us. Only for those willing to change. Counselor Vornis understood now. Humanity was not seeking revenge for the exile. They were not trying to rule the galaxy. They were offering something else entirely, a chance to grow up. What about those who do not join? He asked. What about the old council? What about the species who voted for exile? President Yunji answered. They can keep their council. They can keep their balance, their comfort, their limits. We will not interfere with them. We will not attack them. We will simply ignore them and they will slowly fall behind. And eventually they will fade away. Not because we destroyed them, because they chose not to grow. It was cold, but it was also fair. Humanity was not punishing the galaxy. They were simply offering a choice, change or be left behind, over the next few hours. The delegation asked questions and received answers. They learned about human technology, human plans, human dreams. They learned about ships that could travel between galaxies in hours, about energy sources that could power civilizations for millions of years, about medicine that could cure any disease, extend any life, repair any damage. They learned that humanity was already sending ships beyond the known galaxy, exploring new star systems, contacting new species, discovering new realities. They were not waiting for the old galaxy to catch up. They were moving forward with or without permission. By the end of the day, most of the delegation had made their choice. They would join the coalition. They would embrace humanity's vision. They would stop accepting limits. Counselor Vornis was the last to decide. He floated in his tank, thinking about everything he had seen and heard. "I have a question," he said finally. "Ask," Yunji replied. "Was this your plan all along? Force us to exile you, then return on your own terms?" Yunji glanced at Jian, who smiled that mysterious smile. "We knew the galaxy would eventually try to control us or cast us out," Jian said. "You were too afraid not to. So we prepared for both options. When you chose exile, we simply activated the other plan." "But the suffering," Vornis said. "Millions have died since you left. Wars, plagues, disasters. Did you plan for that too?" Jian's smile faded. "We did not want anyone to suffer. We offered to help. We offered to stay. You refused. The suffering that followed was not our punishment. It was your consequence." Vornis nodded slowly. "It was a hard truth, but it was true." "I will join your coalition," he said. "My people will follow me. We want to grow. We want to become better." "Welcome," Yunji said. "We are glad to have you." The delegation departed the next day, carrying gifts and promises and the seeds of a new future. They spread the word across the galaxy. A new power was rising. A new choice was being offered. A new age was beginning. The old Galactic Council continued to exist, but it was a shadow of what it had been. Species left every month to join humanity's coalition. Those who remained grew weaker and more isolated. Counselor Threx watched his life's work crumble. He had led the campaign to exile humanity. He had thought he was saving the galaxy. Instead, he had doomed it to irrelevance. 1 year after the exile vote, he sent a message to Earth requesting an audience. He wanted to apologize. He wanted to join the coalition. He wanted to be part of the future. Ambassador Jian read his message and considered it for a long time. Then she wrote her reply. "The coalition welcomes all who wish to grow. Come to Earth, learn what humanity has become. Then decide if you truly want to change or if you simply want to survive." It was not forgiveness. But it was a chance. Threx took it. 50 years later, the galaxy was transformed. The human coalition had expanded beyond the known stars, making contact with civilizations in other galaxies, discovering dimensions that defied understanding. Achieving what had been called impossible, the old council was gone. The Vrax Empire had collapsed. The species that had once feared humanity now lived alongside them as partners and friends, a young species. Newly spacefaring, came to Earth to learn about the great humans who had changed everything. They asked to meet someone who had been there at the beginning. Ambassador Jian, now very old but still sharp, agreed to see them. "Why?" the young alien asked. "Why did humanity help the galaxy after the galaxy threw you away?" Jian thought about the question. She thought about the exile vote, the smiles, the walk away. She thought about the chaos and the suffering and the long, hard years of building something new. "Because that is what humans do," she said finally. "We do not conquer. We do not destroy. We build. We grow. We push forward. The galaxy tried to exile us from their sandbox. So we built our own playground and invited everyone who wanted to dream bigger." She smiled that mysterious smile one last time. That is the human way. Outside her window, human ships rose into the sky, flying toward new stars, new discoveries, new impossibilities to overcome. Beside them flew ships from 100 different species, all united by a simple idea. There are no limits except the ones you accept. The galaxy had voted to exile Earth. Humanity had smiled and walked away, and then they had built something better. Not for revenge, not for power. Just because they could, and that made all the difference.